go back to August 1st, Saturday. I was out shopping with my wife and our youngest daughter, and just wasn't feeling well, and kind of went back to the car and discovered, some sores in my mouth and some other things. And so I waited on her, and the next day got up, went to church on the 2nd. Went out to eat with my in-laws afterwards, but felt bad the whole day. And so that night, kind of run a fever, break it, and going into Monday morning, I think I'm good. But woke up Monday morning, the 3rd, and still wasn't feeling well, so I stayed home. And I stayed in bed all day and kept running fever off and on. And then the day that everything changed was Tuesday, October 4th. Got up that morning to take my daughter to school and to get ready for work, and still didn't feel right, but thought I was okay, and stepped into the shower, and twice in the shower, passed out, blacked out, whatever you want to call it. And I got up that morning at 8:34. I remember looking at the clock to use the restroom. Walked in. I remember seeing my feet, and that was it. Woke up at 8:54. Was on my knees, leaned back against the sink, the pedestal, and had blood all in my mouth and blood all around me on the floor, and had to crawl back to my son's room. I was staying in his room while he was gone to his mom's, so I wouldn't get her sick if I did have a virus, and texted her, my wife, who was already at work, that, hey, you need to come get me. I'm not in good shape. And she came home and got me dressed, washed off, and we went to Lexington Medical Center ER. So they get me in a private little area in the ER in a room. My father comes up, my wife's there with me, and by 3 p.m., one of the doctors had walked in and diagnosed me with leukemia, APL. Sitting in the hospital, I remember looking at my wife. We've been at the Harvest since September of 21, and the first Sunday there, the 2 songs that were played was The Battle Belongs and then Rattle. And hello, does that not fit? That's a soundtrack to what I'm going through, wasn't it? From that time, being on the ride down to Augusta, getting into the room, waking up the next day, being told, hey, this is what you've got. We're 90% sure, but now we got to do a bone marrow biopsy on you. So having that done and having the results and knowing that, hey, it's APL, and not only is it treatable, it's 99% curable. And then starting with treatment. They started me on October 4th, the night I got there, on Atra, which is a chemotherapy pill. We went from there to about a week out, arsenic treatments. So I've done about 28 arsenic treatments from my stay in Augusta to my stay here. There was a peace that I can't explain, and no man can explain if it's not from God. It's not the same. The people that came out of the woodworks, to whether it be at their school or at church, that took my kids when I was in the hospital out to eat after church, or came up and hugged them at school, that's overwhelming. But the peace has been knowing, I believe there's somewhere in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 that talks about what you're going through is the will of God at this time. No matter if it's good, bad, your circumstances is the will of God. That's what's been on my heart, that no matter what comes of this, good or bad, God will get the glory either way. And if one person comes to know God because they hear something of what I've been through, then it's all been worth it. My suggestion to folks is, if you're not tapped into a local church, do it. Nothing beats finding a good local church and having that leadership, but that brotherhood, that fellowship. It cannot be rightfully explained. It just can't. Words cannot adequately describe how much having a good church, a good pastor, good support along with you. But the peace that I have found, it has not only sustained me, it sustained my kids, my wife, my mother, father, my sister. I told somebody the other day, there was probably 2 times in those 20 days where your spirits kind of started slipping, as far as, man, I'm tired of this, I'm getting worn down. And as soon as that would happen, I'd get a text, whether it be from Pastor Jumper or from you, or former kids that I coached years ago in baseball that would reach out to you. And that just sustains you, and that's all of God. The support from, the community, but also the church family, only being there a year and having the Barbers and the Livingstons and the Ruckers and the Ergles and the Maldens reach out to me. It's overwhelming, the love and support from so many families, and the Reynolds and just everyone. It makes you realize that God set up why we came there a year ago. And all this was known. It's also in His time, and His time's never wrong. And I think that's where the peace comes in, is when He truly is doing everything to mold, shape you in His likeness and image, and everything that happens is for our goodness,